The Lantern's Whisper. Ravenshade was the kind of town that looked like it had been left behind for a reason. Streets cracked under years of disrepair, streetlights flickered even when they worked, and the fog clung to the earth as if afraid to let go. The people were quiet and tense, especially in October, especially near Blackthorn Road. At its end stood the Hargrove house. The house wasn't abandoned, it refused to be. Its crumbling facade was always watching, its gnarled wooden beams bending inward as though suffocating something inside. And on Halloween, the lantern appeared. Always. Its glow wasn't warm like a pumpkin's or inviting like a street lamp. It was sick, green and oily, spilling light like poison. No one ever admitted they'd seen it up close. Those who weren't around to talk about it. Mara didn't care. She didn't believe in curses or whispers or shadows that moved when you didn't. She had bigger problems, like starting over in this nowhere town after her father had uprooted them for a fresh start. But when her older brother Nate dared her to go to the Hargrove house and snap a picture of the infamous lantern, she didn't hesitate. "Prove it's just a dumb story," Nate teased, handing her the old Polaroid. "Or are you scared?" The house was waiting for her. The closer she got, the thicker the fog became. By the time she reached the front gate, she could barely see the house. It loomed in the distance, an unnatural black void against the moonlight. The lantern was there, sitting on the rotting porch. Its glow pulsed faintly, like something alive. Mara hesitated. For a moment, her breath hitched as she thought she heard something. A sound so faint it might have been wind. Or laughter. "Just a stupid story," she muttered to herself, forcing her feet to move. She stepped onto the porch. The boards groaned under her weight, and the lantern's light seemed to flicker in greeting. Up close, it looked old, ancient, even. The iron was blackened with soot, the glass warped like a funhouse mirror. But its glow. The glow seemed to seep into her skin, her bones, her mind. "Mara." She froze. Her name drifted through the air, soft and wet, like it had been chewed before it was spoken. "Who's there?" she demanded, her voice trembling. The lantern pulsed, and the shadows it cast began to move. They writhed across the porch, stretching like hands, like mouths, whispering things she couldn't understand but somehow felt. She lifted the camera with shaking hands and snapped a photo. The flash erupted, momentarily banishing the shadows. But when the light faded, the world changed. The lantern's glow was gone, but the darkness wasn't normal, it was alive. It pressed against her, suffocating, whispering in her ears, her mind, her very soul. "Mara. You see me now," the voice hissed. She stumbled back, her breath coming in gasps. "Stay away," she screamed. The shadows didn't listen. They spilled over her, dragging her back toward the house. Her feet scraped against the porch as she struggled, but the door creaked open, and she was pulled inside. The last thing she saw was the lantern, its sickly green light igniting again, brighter now, burning like a malevolent star. The next morning, Nate woke to find Mara's bed empty. He smirked, thinking she was trying to scare him, but when she didn't come home by noon, panic set in. He went to her room and found the Polaroid camera lying on her desk. The photo was still inside. He pulled it out. It wasn't the house or the lantern. It was Mara. Standing in the doorway of the Hargrove house, her face barely visible in the gloom. Something loomed behind her, its skeletal arms wrapped around her neck. Its face, or lack of one, was turned directly toward the camera. Nate felt his throat tighten. He turned the photo over, but there was something scrawled on the back in jagged black ink. "You're next." As he stared at the photo, the room grew colder. His breath fogged, and a faint green light spilled in from the window. He turned slowly, heart pounding. The lantern was sitting on their porch. Its light pulsed once. And the whispers began.